So I'm going to take these 3 M4 10mm long stainless steel bolts out, and now I can put my motor plug. I want to push that into there, but super important, I want to use some of the foil drive battery grease on the plug. And the reason this is super important is that if any moisture or salt or anything like that ever got in here, by using that battery grease, it adds that protective layer between the pins, the gold pins, and you won't get any corrosion. So always use your battery grease. So I'm just going to plug that in like that, push it down nice and neatly, and then I'm going to put those 3 screws back in so that my motor is fully locked in place. Try and do them up evenly so you're not having the plug tilt. Now I'm going to tighten them up. Just finger tight, you don't need to go crazy. That O-ring will squish. That blue O-ring has to be there. Now that's ready to rock and roll. So now I've got my mast and my box in place and everything's seated. I will then just do the last nip up of those bolts so that the mast and the box can't move under load. So next step is getting the pod onto the mast. And what we're going to do is we're going to put the pod on the mast. First things first, I want to take the sleeves out of the pod. You want to put them together, and I've got this wrong. Put it together like that. And I want the numbers, hashtag numbers, to be facing me. And I also want to take note that written on the side of the pod, it says base plate with an arrow. For carbon tapered masts, these inner sleeves are directional. So base plate arrows, I want to turn this upside down so that, guess what? It's facing the base plate. So I'm going to put that on roughly wherever I want it for now. I got the nose cone, I got the rear. There's no direction on the nose cone, but there is a direction on the rear. The square cutout, you want to have that facing the board. So we're going to rotate that and we're going to put that on like that. There are, as I said before, 4 M312 screws. They need to go into the rear of the pod so you can join it up. So I'm just going to put them in now, slide it on, and just get it roughly seated for now. Because what I need to do first, before I do it up, is just make sure my motor's going to be at the right height for the pod. So I've grabbed the motor, I'm going to slide it into the rear of the pod, and now I'm just going to adjust the pod position roughly to where I want it. And I want it about there, something like that. Okay, cool. I can take that back out. I've got my pod in position, and now I put the 2.5mm driver, and I want to just do up the screws gently so that I can get the 2 halves to engage. Don't do one bolt all the way up the first time. You want to do them a little bit at a time so they pull in evenly. So I've got all 4 engaged now. Do them up evenly so that the pod halves pull together. It's okay to have a gap between the pod halves. Tapered masts, that is necessary. As the taper goes down this way, the gap reduces. As you push it this way, the gap increases. The gap allows there to be clamping force. If there's no gap, it wouldn't work. And the gap looks, yep, nice and even. You just wouldn't want the pod looking like this. You want it nice and straight. I'm going to slide it in, make sure it still fits. Beautiful. So now we've got that on, there's 3 more M312 bolts. They need to go in the pod to secure your motor to the pod. So I put the top one in, and it should just be able to thread in with fingers. You should never need to force it. If you're having to force it, something's not lined up, and it's not going to go in well. So now that all 3 of them are in there, I'm just going to nip them up finger tight again, not crazy tight, doesn't need to be, nice and sturdy. The next thing is cable guide. I'm just going to measure the cable guide on the back of my mast, and I'm going to cut a strip to put behind this bit for better hydrodynamic performance. Cut it with scissors. Then I'm just going to move the cable guide out the way, or the cable out the way, and push that in place. You can do this before you put the motor on as well. There's no real right or wrong. Motor and cable taking the contour of the mast. It looks nice and neat. Got a cable guide in there which fills in a void for hydrodynamic performance. The next step, and this is overlooked by a lot of people, is spend some time doing a nice tape job. I know it sounds silly that you're using tape, but it is the best way to fill all the little gaps to prevent water wanting to flow into all these little areas. You want a nice smooth surface for best hydrodynamic performance. Start the tape on the leading edge, and this black electrical tape works really well for this because it's got a little bit of stretch to it over this side, and I'm just taking the time to keep it smooth. Another wrap down here. There we go. You don't need to go all the way down here, just to the base of the cable. Snip that off. Our motor is installed on our mast, our box is on the board. We are so close to getting the water, I can almost taste it.